How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is RuffledRowlit, and today we've got ourselves some Pokemon rumors. Let's get right into it. Starting things off, we're going to have this post right here, shared to us by Light, but it's actually from 4chan, the original post, and it's about Pokemon wins and Pokemon waves. So just keep that in mind as we go into this, right? So here is what they have to say. Basically, it's a new rumor has surfaced regarding Pokemon wins and waves. Take it all with a grain of salt, because keep in mind, these are just random posts on 4chan, so that doesn't necessarily mean that what they're saying is actually true. It could just be somebody making shit up, but there's a chance it could be real because we've had stuff that's real in the past. So just keep that in mind. Now, there is a breakdown here of everything if you want to pause and read it, but I'm going to go and read the actual post itself just to get a good idea of what everything is and explain some stuff to you. So the first thing they say is that apparently there's going to be an overhaul, okay? An overhaul. So a change of the weather system, which will have a bigger importance on battles than the Majin gimmick, which is kind of connected. Now, what is he talking about? Well, first of all, the Majin gimmick, if you don't know what Majin is in this context, there is a long-standing leak now that has existed, or not existed, that literally is proven. There's a leak of Winds and Waves that came out during this giant breach of Game Freak servers, right, where they stole a bunch of data, a bunch of files, including details about Pokemon Winds and Waves, which is why we knew the name of Pokemon Winds and Waves is going to be Winds and Waves, but included in that was the mention of the game's new gimmick, right? Now, gimmicks, for those who don't know, are basically things like Mega Evolution, Z moves, Dynamax, Gigantamax, things of that nature. Those are what we refer to as Pokemon gimmicks, right? Basically, features that are added in each new generation that bring a big change to gameplay of some shape or form or whatever, right? Usually battle-related. Now, what they're talking about here is that apparently there's going to be an overhaul of how the weather works in this game compared to normal Pokemon games. You guys know normal Pokemon games, if you're in a battle and let's say you're in an area that's raining, your battle will have, automatically like rain will be happening. But also you can use things like sunny day to remove rain or whatever else, like make a harsh sunlight appear to increase the, power of fire type moves or, make something like solar beam hit instantly and stuff like that. So that's just an example of what the weather system normally looks like. But he's saying here there's going to be a change in the weather system to have a bigger importance on battle specifically, and more so than the Majin gimmick itself. And the Majin gimmick is supposed to be related, again, also to the weather, but also related to specific Pokemon that are kind of like deities that work for some benevolent force. And those are going to be, this Majin gimmick is going to be sort of like, imagine that certain Pokemon have a special version of it, like how you have Gigantamax Pokemon, and then every Pokemon can have a regular version of it, like a boost from it, similar to how Dynamax works, where every Pokemon can have Dynamaxing, but not every Pokemon has a special Gigantamax form. So that's that. Now, they say, first, we're getting a few new types of weather and terrain. So every type in the game has some sort of interaction with at least one of them. For example, interesting. So, for example, there'll be a new terrain that's going to affect Ghost and Dark Pokemon. Ooh, that actually sounds really cool. Okay, that actually sounds really, really, really cool. Now, some of the old weather will get a small update to how they work, which makes sense, right? You would definitely, listen, this makes total sense as well, because keep in mind, the reason they haven't done some crazy shit with the mainline Pokemon games, like added some crazy new changes and stuff like that, big reason for that is because they've always had to balance the Pokemon games somewhat so that the competitive side, so the VGC, the competitive side, like people who play Wi-Fi battles and stuff, have an actual balanced game. Because if you give the most insane, or add insane things into the game, it can make balancing really hard. However, we're no longer going to be playing the VGC and competitive on the mainline games. Like Gen 10, Winds and Waves, will not be the game you play if you want to play competitive Pokemon. You're going to do that in Pokemon Champions, right? So when, Gen 10, when Winds and Waves comes out, they'll probably do an update in Pokemon Champions and allow some of the Pokemon from Winds and Waves to be transferred. But Winds and Waves itself is not what's going to be used for the World Championship or competitive battling. There will probably still be some sort of online battles, but it just won't be balanced, right? It's going to be just cracked and broken, kind of like how it's cracked and broken in Pokémon Legends ZA, right? With the competitive battles there. It's something they don't really do much about. It's just kind of is what it is. What you see is what you get, and they're not really going to change their, the balancing or any of that, or make it really even that balanced, to be honest with you. So just keep that in mind. That's sort of something you have to keep in mind with what they're doing here. At least I think this is something they will be doing. Now, like they said, some of the old weathers will actually get a small update to how they work. This will help cast form, which makes sense. It's literally the weather Pokemon in some way, who is getting, or the cloud Pokemon, who's getting a little rework. Think about how Rotom forms work from Gen 5 and onwards. Ooh, okay. With cast form weather forms receiving stat boost, there will be also a new Pokemon that is basically cast form, but for terrain. Okay, think Stunfisk type Flatfish, but cuter. That actually, you know what? Hey, yo, you're putting my boy Stunfisk in a bad place, man. Don't disrespect Stunfisk like that. Come on. Come on. My man has like done nothing wrong. But okay, that actually sounds really interesting. So think of, I guess, a Pokemon like Cast Form, but a version of that, but specifically to change the terrain. So if you imagine it like this, if Cast Form changes the weather from sunny to rainy to a snowstorm, right, which affects essentially water types, fire types, ice types, right? Those three get affected by that. And then I guess like maybe you can have something like, you can include something like, I don't know, I guess like Tailwind would be a move that could be kind of included like for flying types, something like that. But like you get the point. Like there are moves and things you can kind of connect to Cast Form that makes sense with like weather from above. However, on the ground, what do we do there? Well, we need some sort of counterpart. And guess what? A Pokemon like that seems to be what they're implying here. A sort of like Stunfisk type of fish, but not as they imply, not as, you know, cuter than Stunfisk, which I disagree with, but well. Either way, that sounds interesting. Then they go on to the margin thing. Literally what they say here is they literally write the margin thing. The flow, and then they do quotations, the flow, is that what they actually are called? Is connected to the flow of the natural energy, giving Pokemon a second ability based on the type of margin and the conditions of a battle. So weather plus terrain. Some Pokemon are blessed and get a new form as well. Ooh. So that would be like the equivalent of a Gigantamax Pokemon, which gets a special new form because of like this combo of abilities or whatever. Now, margins themselves are not Pokemon, but they have Mons, Pokemon, that represent them. Kind of like God Arceus and Pokemon Arceus existing separately, right? Okay, fair enough. I get what he's trying to say. So he's trying to imply that these margin Pokemon will have like almost like an avatar Pokemon that represents them in the actual world. The same, I guess in some ways say like Arceus that we see is a manifestation of Arceus, but Arceus himself is the literal Pokemon God, as in like a, let's say it more meta way, right? But yeah, that's fine, I guess. I don't see this being necessarily even that crazy. And having certain Pokemon that work as sort of intermediaries for like quote-unquote the margins as if there's some sort of mini-gods actually makes sense. But yeah, they then say that the box art legendaries gain secondary typing based on their connections with one of the 6 margins. Ooh, okay, so the types he mentions are Psychic, Ground, Rock, Fire, Ice, and Ghost, which, yes, those are all the ones that were actually, those typings are actually the margin types we're gonna get, because those were in the leaks, again, that we have already seen from the past, like actual real leaks. Now, he says the Ghost type margin is only available in post-game. Interesting, okay? There is an Easter egg for a new Poison-type Pokemon that will debut in Winds and Waves, hidden in plain sight in Corbo's office in ZA. Which I guess he's implying with this picture here that it's supposed to be some sort of raptor, like a dinosaur, and I guess it's gonna be a poison type. At least that's what it's implying, because it's like a purple like you know, glove, not glove, I guess plastic, you know, like glove of sorts, holding a raptor claw of some sort. Like that's kind of what it looks like. So maybe some sort of dinosaur, maybe some sort of, let's say it says there's an Easter egg for a new poison type Pokemon. So it says it's hidden in plain sight, but I don't know where I'm meant to be looking, or if this raptor thingy is not even related to that. Maybe that's unrelated, but I cannot see anything in his office that connects to it, unless it's something like Bronzor, because Bronzor is there, but other than that, I don't know, maybe something like, what are these things called again? Like these, oh god, I want to say feather, but what are they called again? Like I don't know the word, man. I don't know. English is not my first language. I have a free pass on that. But either way, now, the last thing he says is that Brout's final evolution has a Delmice's ability as its hidden ability, I guess. And hint, Mega Skarmory. So, wait a minute. So he's trying to imply, at least as far as I can tell, he's trying to imply that Brout's final evolution, okay, Delmice's ability. What is Delmice's ability again? Could Brout's final be based on Cassowary? Let's look it up. Is that what the claw is for? Oh, okay. I see what he's going for. All right. But yeah, so again, quick breakdown of the stuff we just read. So weather and terrain will be more important than the Majin gimmick. Cast Form gets a rework with stat boost based on weather. The Majin mechanic, the Flow, gives Pokemon a second ability. Some Pokemon receive new blessed forms. Box legendaries gain secondary types tied to the Majin. A new poison type Pokemon is teased in Corbo's office in ZA. Brout's final evolution gets a Delmise-like hidden ability. Steelworker boosting steel type moves by 50%. Ah, okay, I see. So a hidden ability that's similar to it, but not exactly like it. Okay, fair enough. I see what they're going at. So yeah, that pretty much summarizes that rumor though, in a sense. But if you guys, again, have any thoughts on this one, let me know, because frankly speaking, it's an interesting rumor. I'm very curious to see, because it doesn't, like, the thing with a lot of these rumors is a lot of times they can sound very far-fetched. Other times they can sound incredibly realistic. And this is one of those that actually does sound very, very realistic, which is, I mean, I don't know, man. It's something. It's not nothing. It's definitely something. So, yeah, we'll see if anything comes from that. The next thing we actually have is some proper news, but it's also not news, because the Corocoro magazine has leaked. It's actually released, and it is a page all about Pokemon. Unfortunately, they have a section about Pokemon champions that doesn't really show anything new. It's just champions info you already know. And at the bottom, they have some Pokemon wins and waves, but it's mostly just stuff we already know. It's just literally telling you to essentially go to their website or go watch the YouTube video trailer reveal, and that's it. And even Centro here specifically says the Corocoro magazine issue for the month, as expected, reveals nothing new for Pokemon. As we mentioned multiple times, you don't expect any major Pokemon wins and waves trailer until 2027, which, yes, is pretty much where I'm also at. I don't expect it. But before we go away from everything, there is actually something that did come out, which is there was a behind-the-scenes footage video of Winds and Waves' main theme being produced by the people at the NHK Orchestra. So the people who basically, like, I don't know if they necessarily, I mean, how would I put this? Like, essentially just recorded it, right? But yeah, which is really cool, the symphony for it. I would recommend watching it. It doesn't show any new footage. It's mostly just footage we've already seen. So just an FYI on that. But yeah, you can watch the video itself. You can just go to Centro's page. You can go to the official Pokemon, page on Twitter and actually see it in case you are curious what that sounds like, what it looks like. Again, it's there in case you're curious about it. But yeah, also, some quick news before we, move on to the next thing, which is that Pokemon, specifically Pokopia and Pokemon, I think Fire and Leaf Green's ports, both sold 4 million copies each, which is kind of crazy, because that means that we're most likely going to be seeing a Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire port happening sometime soon as well. The reason I think this is going to be the case is because, one, it's also kind of like the anniversary of those games too, but also because Ruby and Sapphire already had their data in the ROMs that were used for Pokemon Fire Red Leaf Green. And also, since they sold 4 million copies and basically required zero effort from the actual developers, it's an easy way for them to just cash in another 4 million, sales easily on Ruby and Sapphire, which I think would even sell better than Fire Red Leaf Green, just because Ruby and Sapphire, I think, are just, at this point, I would think are somewhat larger games in terms of people's interest and how much people play them and Nuzlocke them and stuff like that. And if people had an official way to play them and not like, on a, ROM hack way or, an emulator, I think a lot of people would enjoy it. So there is that. And I think that covers that info. The last thing we're going to talk about is going to be this Pokopia DLC leak, actually, which is from Light, saying Pokopia DLC leaks. The first Pokopia DLC is planned for the Q1 of 2027. Keep in mind, plans during development can always change. Now, the current rumored content includes 4 brand new areas to explore, 100 plus new Pokemon, 3 new forms, including 1 for Kingler, and possible appearance of the Winds and Waves starters, which that one is the one where I'm a little bit sus. The new areas part does sound real bad. I'm starting to choke over here. The new areas part, though, that we know is for a fact going to happen, because we saw some of the leaks, some of the old leaks that actually pretty much more or less attest and confirm that. So we'll see, right? We'll see what comes from it. But yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes that. I don't think I missed anything necessarily, but ladies and gentlemen, I think that's pretty much that for that section. The last thing we have is going to be this right here. And after this, I think that's it. But yeah, potential Winds and Waves leak again. But this is coming in from Light, who says, there seems we'll be able to crest our own island. I'm not sure what crest means, but either way. He says, maybe it's inspired by Poképelago and secret bases, but with a dynamic system where the island gradually grows and changes over time depending on your progression, Pokemon and exploration or choices. Instead of just a customizable base, it could become a living island that evolves alongside your journey. So the idea of us basically having an island that we, well, I don't know if we control it, but okay, listen. Now that we're talking about islands is getting really weird, but essentially the idea is of you having kind of like a secret base type of thing, right? Like think of it like, oh God, like a housing system that you'd have in something like an MMO, right? Where you can essentially just put different furniture, you know, explore with your Pokemon, capture new Pokemon, decorate the area, etc., stuff like that. That's essentially what I'm assuming this would imply and mean, but again, we'll have to wait and see what comes from that, if anything comes from that. And I think that pretty much summarizes that. Again, I'd love your thoughts on all of these rumors because there is a plentiful of them we just covered. But let me know what you think about all of them. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I think that's going to be it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like down below. And I'll see you all in the next one.